Hello and welcome to An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about the lurid 1973 science fiction schlock Invasion of the Bee Girls. When a bacteriologist at a government-backed research project turns up dead, the State Department sends Special Agent Neil Agar to the research centre to investigate. After making the acquaintance of the facility's head librarian, who is clearly the movie's designated love interest, Agar begins interviewing the firm's leading scientists, many of whom have reputations for sexually adventurous private lives. Agar's investigation doesn't get much traction to begin with, and is soon complicated by the fact that the bacteriologist's demise is not the only and suspicious death. A number of them quickly follow, and with a growing number of men from the project succumbing to heart failure caused by sexual exhaustion. Ooh la la. As the authorities make various unsuccessful attempts to protect the local men from being sexually slain, Agar begins to formulate a truly bizarre theory about the nature of the deaths. It's so crazy it just might be right, especially in a movie with a title like Invasion of the Bee Girls. So this film is sometimes found under the title Graveyard Tramps. That name is rather less directly linked to the plot of the film, but it also hints at the degree of smuttiness that is in the movie, which is perhaps not so evident from a title like Invasion of the Bee Girls. Because, there is a lot of nudity and sex scenes. They are frequent in this movie, though there's definitely a theme of coitus interruptus to the latter, what with the premise of the film being, men are being murdered by sex. I did say it was lurid trash, remember. More importantly for our purposes here, though, is the question of, is it entertaining lurid trash? And the answer is sometimes, though not always for the reasons the film intended. It's also a film with some interesting aspects to discuss. So if you forgive the expression, let's begin. So Invasion of the Bee Girls is the first film script to come from the pen of Nicholas Meyer. 3 years after this movie, Meyer would be nominated for an Academy Award for writing the screen version of his own novel, The 7% Solution, which is a Sherlock Holmes story. But he's probably best remembered or known, he's still alive but no longer active as far as I can see in the film industry. He's probably best known today as the director of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and The Day After, and for writing the scripts for Star Trek IV and Star Trek VI. Now, I'm far from being a dedicated Trekkie, but all of those films were critically and commercially successful, so Mr. Meyer clearly had a knack for delivering movies that are widely liked. But if you come to this film because you've enjoyed Meyer's other work, you might be in for a bit of a surprise. Invasion of the Bee Girls is definitely a very different kind of project from any of the other movies that I just named, or for that matter, from anything else Meyer seems to have done in his entire career. I'm not sure how he came to write this script, whether it was just an idea he couldn't shake, or something he banged out as work for hire, but it's certainly an outlier in his catalogue of work. While it's definitely not in the same tone as Meyer's other films, it seems pretty clear to me that he, and presumably director Dennis Sanders, for whom it was also rather out of type, were consciously and deliberately making a B-movie. Now, that's not always the case. Many B-movies have much bigger ambitions, and it is the fact that they lack the skill or resources to achieve those ambitions that cements their B-movie status. Now, exploitation films are a common example of movies that never set out to be anything other than B quality. Because as long as they deliver bare flesh, they've done their job. They don't have to make much of an effort otherwise. And Invasion of the Bee Girls is most certainly an exploitation film, what with all the naked bosoms and buttocks it flaunts. But it feels to me almost like it's an exploitation film because it wants to be a B-movie, rather than a B-movie because it's an exploitation film and need not try to be more. A key factor in this is because the main character of the film is named Neil Agar, a choice that is pretty clearly a deliberate nod to actor John Agar. The real-life John Agar made a host of low-budget science fiction films in the 50s and 60s, and is a sort of fairly widely known grandfather of B-movie science fiction. Using his name is a pretty flagrant wink to the camera that this movie schlockiness is 100% premeditated and intentional, and not merely the result of ineptitude or lack of effort. I think smartly, having given us the nod and the wink from the off, the film does not thereafter feel the need to lampshade its intentions too blatantly. It's not always kind of going, hey, you see how we're parodying ourselves there? Aren't we silly? It instead focuses on being a a solid example of the kind of literary trash it's consciously setting out to be. And it was successful enough in that regard that it won a pretty positive review from Roger Ebert at the time of its release, which is, not a bad claim to fame for it, I guess. I had some fun giggling along with Invasion of the Bee-Girl's absurd and nonsensical science fiction plotline and its boofy bee-girl transformation scene, which apparently involves covering a nude woman in a whole lot of foaming soap, because of course it does. I am, however, not much of a fan of its multiple sex scenes. I generally found them quite unsexy, even before they culminated in, the ultimately desire-killing death of one of the participants. I found them unsexy largely, as a combination of the acting, which is not always very good, and of the rather intrusively voyeuristic camera work. There are times when the camera's tendency to linger on a woman's underwear made it feel more than a little creepily peeping Tom. Even worse, the movie features a quite lengthy and thoroughly unpleasant scene where three men attempt to rape the film's main female character. A scene which is clearly framed in an attempt to titillate the audience. It's not done in any way differently to the other sex scenes in terms of how the camera is acting. And there's, clearly, here are some boobs. Rape is not sexy. Don't try to make rape sexy. It's gross. If the cheesy science fiction schlock of Invasion of the Big Girls sounds like your sort of thing, knock yourself out. It appears to be freely and legally downloadable on the Internet Archive. But maybe keep the fast-forward controls at hand so you can skip through the film's unfortunate diversions into outright skeeviness. Next time, Wreck, a 2007 Spanish horror film that I thoroughly enjoyed. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.